Good afternoon, good morning, good evening for those of you around the world and anyone who's joining with us after the fact. We're very excited today about our next Kandy Technical Fireside Chat. I'm Sarah Hughes, Senior Vice President of Customer Experience and Channel Marketing for Kandy Communications. And with me, I have Sharon Fasadny, and she's our Senior Manager of Customer Success here for the Americas. And today our topic is a renewed interest, a new look at our end user web portal for our subscribers. So just a little housekeeping here. Your lines are muted down and you are able to ask questions in the chat. Sharon and I both will be tag teaming on this and we'll be answering those questions as we go along. So without further ado, our agenda today, I'm going to share this with you, and the slides, and of course this webinar recording will be made available to everyone who's registered. Please, if you forward this to anyone, have them forward to them not your particular login, but to join via their own. They would have to register. All right, so the things that we're going to talk about today are how to brand the end user web portal, how to enable single sign-on. We'll talk about call logs and messages, your voicemail messages, and we'll also talk about address books, contacts, updating your profile, and conference settings. We'll talk about soft phone client access, star codes, creating and using distribution groups, and routing calls through our end user web portal. We'll also go through voicemail settings and our messaging portal, access device keys for your phones to be able to manage that in the end user web portal. And we'll also go through hunt group administration, wallboard setup for that, as well as UCD group, which is our kind of basic call center, and our wallboards. And then finally, we'll talk about how, as Kandy Business Solutions, the administrator, you're able to log in and assist users with their end user portal settings. We'll also talk about documentation, training, and marketing information that you'll be able to access from our partner portal. And we'll also touch on the next webinars out there. All right, so let's start out with branding the end user web portal. So first of all, on the left-hand side of this, within you as a partner or your partner would have to go in and make sure that as they have created you in the system or created a customer in the system, that they would have to enable portal branding. If this is not done, it can't be changed after the fact. So it does need to be decided upon before this customer is provisioned, whether or not they will have their own look and feel to the end user web portal. And that also takes on their administration if they are enabled for enterprise administration. So, yes.
Your screen share is not showing up on my entire screen. I'm wondering if it's just me or if it's everyone. Like I can only see a portion of it. Does everyone else see the entire screen share? You see the entire, okay, Jerry said he sees the entire thing. Okay, so it's something on my end. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so on the left-hand side, once this is enabled, then you can drill down into that particular customer, and you'll need to go into their interface. So this is the partner admin, and then you'll need to go into that enterprise admin, or that context is what we call it. And just drilling down in from the partner admin, you wouldn't be able to see that, these settings. So you will have to go into account, and under branding visuals, you would then see this particular screen. And by default, this actually takes on what you as a partner have, okay? And so they would by default have a look and feel the same as what your partner admin has. But let me just show you here that when you do drill down, or not drill down, you log in specifically for their portal URL, you are able to go in and change the title. So by default in this one, this is our Kandy North America Trials, you would be able to change whatever text you put in here would show up on their end user web portal login screen. as that. And of course, the color of that would be the header color. So you see the banner color here. And then you also have the ability to upload a logo. And if you look at in order to upload a logo, you click this link here and you upload it. It does tell you that that needs to be, the maximum file size is 20 megabits, but you don't necessarily see the pixel limitations unless you upload one that's too big, and then it would tell you. But that is 660 by 80 maximum, and that would take up this entire, kind of area here. And you want the background of your logo to be the same as the logo bar color. And then finally, as you choose the different splash colors, the context bar, and the button, I'll show you what those are. So this is the screen color that you see here, kind of that background color. This is as within the end user web portal. When you log in, there's going to be different kind of bars that are separator bars here, and those are the context bars. And then the last one is the button color itself. But don't forget that you're also able to choose the text color on these, because sometimes I log in and help people, and the color of the bar itself is really light, but they've left the text color the default of white, and it really is washed out and you can't see it very well. So you are able to change those colors to the default is white. So here's an example of where I have an account. Sarah's Tasty Treats is one of my demo accounts. And you see I went in and I called it Sarah's Tasty Treats. And so that shows here at the top. I went in and kept some of the background colors, which are these underneath here, kind of the gray difference on there. And then the logo bar, probably should have changed that logo bar to be white to match the background of my logo. And then you also see this pop of color here, which is the top, as well as this line and a line here. And then the context bar would be, this particular one, but then the button itself. So there's quite a bit that you can do to brand the end user web portal for your customers. Now, mass market, majority of your customers, you may not want to do that, but if you do have a high profile, a strategic customer that you really want to set it apart and it to be, their brand on it, then you can absolutely do that. So do take advantage of that, but don't forget, as you're provisioning that customer in our administration, you need to make that decision there. Portal branding equal yes. All right, so the next subject is our single sign-on. So we introduced this, I believe, last year, and single sign-on, actually, we kind of did it in phases. We had it set up for admin, and then we had it set up for the subscriber portal, the end user web portal that we're talking about today, but also for our clients. And there's been quite a bit of confusion. What do I do? That kind of thing. So I want to step through that. And first of all, in the partner admin, you as a partner setting this up, there is something you can change after the fact. You can go in and on the bottom right-hand side of the quadrant of when you create a customer, you can go in and edit that customer under Dashboard Customer. Then on the bottom right, you'll see something called single sign-on. And by default, it's disabled. And if you enable it, then you get another particular field here called IDP inheritance. And the IDP, this means enabled, that it would use your partner level IDP settings, okay? And an IDP is an identity provider. The format that we use is SAML2, and we've got instructions for Okta and for Microsoft Azure. And both of those are identity IDPs, and you would need to go in. Well, first of all, this decision of whether or not you enable or disable is based upon whose IDP are you using. And here's a great example. If it's the customer's IDP, if it's the customer's Okta, the customer's Azure settings, then you're going to disable this because you don't want it to take on the partner IDP settings. But if you are the one setting all of the IDP information up for them, you're managing that for them, then you would, and it's yours, then you would say enabled, that you do want it to take on you as the partner's IDP settings. So that's the question at this point. These can be changed. And then going into the customer, you can't drill down either. Okay, you got to go into the customer via their specific URL and log in with that admin. Now you'll get into account and you'll see SSO, single sign-on. Now, there's a couple of things in this. One is on the left-hand side has to do with admin, okay? And that can be covered in a separate topic. But on the right-hand side where it says EUP, End User Portal, this is specifically for the end user web portal, but also for the clients, our soft phones on desktop, our soft phones on mobile. So as you look at their three settings, one is username and password. The second one is username and password dash single sign-on. Third one is single sign-on. So these are three that you get to choose from. And if you're setting this up initially, I would recommend that you use the middle one that allows you to use both single sign-on and our basic, where you're having to enter a SIP user ID and password. The user is going to have one or the other, not both. But if you have a list of 20 users, let's say, and you're testing this, then you would want to set it to where it was in the middle radio button here for username / password and single sign-on for this entire customer group. So you're able to set this, and then you can go in and set, you'll have to add an IDP. Okay, now when you do add the IDP, so here you can hit add, and you can see the example of one that we have for our corporate, but it'll let you input the identity provider details. Now, what I highly recommend is that you go to your IDP, and if you're not that person, get that person on the phone with you, do a collab session, and have them set up their side of it, which they probably already have, and then export the configuration and send that to you so that you can import that in. That really reduces the amount of errors that might happen as you're typing things in. And so let's talk about the first thing, the name of it. Make it something that's descriptive rather than just single sign-on. And the second one, the box sign-on URL. So what happens is when you are logging in, and here's an example, you should be able to see my screen. When I'm logging in, um, okay, when I hit next, what you want it to do is open up this sign-on URL. When somebody hits next, if I'm enabled for single sign-on, you want it to open that up. And for us, it's Okta. I'm going to show you those steps. And it will actually go in and have that user enter in their password, their company credentials, let's say. And then if it's set up for two-factor authentication, be it text message or like Google Authenticator or something like that, then they'll follow those steps in how they normally would. But this is that URL that when you click next, it'll open a page to have them sign in. And for us as employees here, it's Okta. The next one is the policy format. So what is it that they're going to have to, that is going to tip, trigger the fact that they're entering that in? And there's several different options here. Most of the time we see this is going to be email, but you could have, Windows domain qualified name, whatever it is, other different things in there. But what we see typically is email address. The next thing that you're going to select is the single sign-on type. And there's two types. One is admin and one is subscriber. For this, and again, we're setting this up to log into the end user web portal as a user and a subscriber and for their clients. So this works in both of them. And then the next piece, so you want to set subscriber, is the actual certification, the certificate itself. And it's going to be some big, long number. Again, you're not going to want to hand type that in. You'll want to make sure that you get that and then you post it in here. It's a very secure type of thing. The next four checkboxes are something that you're going to most likely need to toggle back and forth. Try it out, see, because depending upon what your IDP is set at, you may actually set these differently, toggle them back and forth. What we actually did on ours, I believe, is I was looking at it and it looked like it was like every other one, like the kind of setting. I'll look at it and see. But anyway, if you need help setting this up, please open a case and our team can help you through that. And most of the time, it comes down to just coordination between the IDP person, if that's not you, and setting up here. Now, here's what it looks like. Again, if the account SSO settings on End User Web Portal, which is on the right-hand side, are set for username and password single sign-on, then you use both. But if it's set for the default, which is username and password, you log in just like you did previously. You enter the username, the password, and you're golden. And then the last one is require them all to enter it. So in the middle here, so the username and password, so we highly recommend you set, especially as you're testing, you can choose on each individual user. So if you go into fulfillment subscriber, and here's mine, that the authentication method can either be set to basic or SSO. That's because this radio button was selected in account SSO. If I selected this as basic, then they would still use this user ID and password. This is the identity section at the top left side of the subscriber page. If I had set this as SSO, this is the actual authentication, the ID that they're going to have to enter in. Okay, my email address, and this is a different email address than what you guys mostly think of for me, but here's my user ID, but this is the authentication email address for that, okay? And that's basically it. So when I go and I hit next, then for me, it's going to open up this SAML Okta page, okay? And that was what was put in this sign-on URL right here. That's what I was talking about. So let me just click over here. So this page, I have to enter in this username in Okta because it was set here. Okay, that's the one I have to enter in. And then my corporate credentials, hit sign in. And this is just my example because of what we use Okta. And mine is set to use Google Authenticator. Okay, you can set it to text you, you can set it to do all kinds of things with this, but again, depending upon if it's Azure or whatever. And mine actually has a push notification to my mobile phone, and I just have to hit, yep, it's me. And it just proves that, because we all carry these things with us, that it was me. As soon as I hit it, yes, it's me, okay, on the authenticator, then it opens up and I'm in the end user web portal, okay? All right, so I'm going to hand it over now to Sharon, and she's going to cover a few of these. And if there's any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat.
Yep, there is one question before we move on, Sarah, and it's in single sign-on. Can we set as default enable and then disable if needed?
Yes, all you have to do is come here in this authentication method. And, that's what happened when we rolled it out with corporate. There were a couple of things where people's emails weren't set right or something. So and they needed to get in. And so I clicked this and moved it to basic and save. That again is why we recommend using this one to begin with, so that you can turn it on and off for people as you coordinate it. And then later you could force them all that way. Okay.
Perfect, thank you.
Mhm.
Jerry, if that didn't answer your question, let us know. Okay, so when the user signs into the end user portal for the first time, they're going to come in. This is the screen they're going to land on. And if you look across the top, there are 4 tabs. There's call logs, there's address book, routing rules, and service settings. And I'm going to cover a lot of them right now. So the first one that they usually land on, or always land on, is call logs. And when you look at this, we're going to talk through the different fields. So the black line across the middle where it says calls and messages is kind of the header for what's going on here. And if you look to the right side, you'll see a little inbox, and that says click to export this list to a CSV. So you can download everything to a CSV and then you can manipulate it however you want. And as we go through this, you'll see where it might make sense, where you would want to download it. Next to that, there's the search box. So for example, if I wanted to know all of my calls that I received from Dave Story, I could put in David, and anything that had David in it would appear. So the list would condense. Underneath the call messages section, you have a lot of different columns. The first column is a box that you would click to select a particular row on your spreadsheet. And when you click that box, different actions will appear over on the right-hand side. So if you look on the far right-hand side, that action column changes depending on what you're selecting. And that's true for every single tab within this. Whatever action you select, your actions will change. So the columns in here are your checkbox. Then you have your event. You have incoming calls, outgoing calls, you'll have voicemail, and you'll have missed calls in there so that you can sort them if you want by, oh, I know I missed a call from someone, who was it? You can sort by missed, and then you'll see who you missed the call from. The next column is your date and time. Then you've got the duration of the event, and then the contact number and who called. If you have their name in your address book, it will show up as, whoever it was. And then the status will show up if it's a voicemail. So if you look halfway through the screen, you'll see that there was a voicemail in there. And in this particular instance, it says that it was a voicemail from Dave Story and that I have read it. If you want to play the message again, read means played or read, whichever. But if you want to play it again, there's a little caret there, and you could press the caret and that will play the message. Now, when you're playing the message, over to the right of that, you'll see there's some message details there. And you'll see that it was a 19-second long message, and you've got some playback controls. You can kind of speed it along if you want, or you can download the message. So you've got a couple options on your voicemail. That is everything on this tab. So if we go to the next screen, we're going to talk a little bit about address books. So there's two types of address books. There's your corporate address book and there's your personal address book. Your corporate address book includes every employee that's on your system in the corporate address book. So it's known as GAB, Global Address Book, or corporate list. The details are based upon what's provisioned in the KBS admin portal. So that's important to understand that it's based on who's in the admin portal. So for example, you're a partner and you have a customer underneath you, it's everyone under that particular customer that will show on the corporate list for that customer. Now, your personal list is also known as your favorites and your clients. And your clients are always, or your favorites list is always empty to begin with, and you need to add people into your clients list or to your personal list. You can do that either from your corporate list, you can import a file, or you can manually add contacts. And I'll show you how to do each of those in the next slide. So if you notice, now I'm on the second tab in the end user portal. So the first one you can't see, but that's the one that we already covered, your call logs. Now we're on address book and contacts. And here, this is everyone. If you look on the black row, it says contacts personal. So this is the personal address list. And this will also be what's your favorites when you have a desktop client or a mobile client. These will be your favorites. You've got the same downloads here. So you've got on that black row, you've got your little inbox that, is download, and you've got your search button. And then it's very similar to the other one where you have your checkbox, and depending on what you check on your checkbox changes your actions on the right-hand side. You've got your first name, last name, and the SIP address and a group. And then we'll talk about groups in a few minutes. But this is where you would add them. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a contact on the next slide. But before we go there, what I want to point out is the add from file button. So under actions, there's add from file. And you can't see it on the screen. Unfortunately, we didn't get the question mark in there. But on every screen, there's a question mark help button on the top right-hand corner of the screen. If you click on the help button, it will give you the template that you need to use to add from file. And you need to use that to make sure that your contacts are in the format that can be downloaded onto the screen and be accepted. So if you want to add from a file, just click on that help button and download the template. Now, if we go to the next page, we'll add a contact. So this is how you add a personal contact in your address book. You're going to click on add contact. You'll put their first name, their last name, their nickname, their SIP user address. And this is important because this is the SIP URL that you will use to communicate with each other on your desktop client or your mobile client. You can put your business phone number in there, and you would enter it as you would dial it. So if you dial 10 digits, you put 10 digits. If it's calling internationally and you need to put, the country code in there, you put the country code in there. So you've got your business phone, your mobile phone, and your home phone. You can add their email address. You can put a group in if you want. We'll talk about that in a minute. And you can put show presence in there. So your show presence is for your desktop client. Do you want to see their presence, and do you want them to see yours? So you can enable or disable presence. When you update this screen, make sure that you always hit save client or save contact. Another option that you have within the end user portal is updating your personal profile, because you're the end user, you want to manage yourself. So the actions that you would select here are manage self, and then it would change to this once you hit manage self. And your first name, your last name, and your nickname, they're always going to be in there. That's from the admin portal. But you can make changes to your business phone, your mobile phone, your home phone, your email address, and your show presence. Again, if you want people to see your presence, say enabled so that they can see your presence. To add a picture, you're going to go down and you're going to select the add picture. It actually will show up on the action side of the screen, add picture. And you'll go in and you'll select the file and you'll upload it with your picture on it. Oh, there's a couple suggestions that we have to make your picture show up more appropriately, look better for yourself. So the maximum picture size is 20 MBs. The picture needs to have 160 by 120 pixels. If it's higher, it's automatically going to be cropped. So I think you want to make sure that it's cropped the way you want it. And you can upload a PNG or a JPEG file. Now, when you load a picture in and you save it, we've got, so if you look, Sarah's pictures here, and if you kind of look at the arrow going down, this is a desktop client, and you can see in the top left-hand corner, that very little picture there, that is Sarah. So whenever I instant message back and forth with Sarah, I see that picture of Sarah in my instant message, and any of you who have her is on your client, you can see that picture too. So that's kind of where that shows up when you put your picture in. So people can put the face with the name. And then when you're done, again, don't forget to hit save contact or all your changes won't be saved.
This is a great way for employees themselves to update their contact information as things change. So yeah, it's really good. And just name with a face.
Yep. Okay, distribution groups. So you can create groups that can be used to route calls or handle calls differently. And how you do that is when you're on your address book, you click on manage groups, and you can create a group or you can edit the name of a group. So once you're in there to manage groups, to create a group, you're going to go and select what the mouse is circling there, add group, and then what will pop up is what's on the left-hand side in that picture. And you can see Sarah's typed in executive in our example here. So once you type in the name of your group, then you'll hit the checkbox and it will add that group. Then to add contacts under that group, what you're going to do is you're going to search the company list. You'll find the people's names. So you can, in this case, we're going to look for Phil Todd. So we put his name in, we search for him, and we're going to put a check mark next to the box next to his name. And then we're going to go over and we're going to say, copy him to the group, and we're going to select which group we want to add him to. And in this case, we're going to add Phil Todd to the My Team group. And it's really that simple. The next one, and this is important, the soft phone client access for people who have the desktop client. There's links on this page for both the PC and for the Mac. So what you do is we're now on the service setting tab. So if you look across the top, we talked about call logs, we talked about address book, and now we're on the service setting tab. When you go to the service settings tab, you click on clients, and your clients will show up at the bottom of the screen, and you'll see Smart Office Desktop Client. And this is where users go in and download the client and get the most up-to-date client is found here. Now, some companies allow the end user to download themselves. Other companies need their IT groups to download it for them. So it's all dependent on, which company you're working with, whether the user can do it themselves or whether they need to go to their IT department. But the links are always here.
And just a
Yep.
note for that, if they do need the files to push out to all their employees, they just open up a case and we'll get that to them. Or you can email customer success at kandy.io.
Thank you. The other two pieces of information on the screen have to do with your phone provision to you as the end user. So on the left-hand side, it displays your phone itself. It's got the MAC address, what type of phone and what the model of your phone is. And then on the right side, you've got your parameters. So it's got your SIP proxy and your port, but then it also has your user ID and your domain. So in this case, it's SUs and her domain is Kandy.io. So you put that together and it's SUs at Kandy.io, and that's how the end username that we use to chat with Sarah. So we could go on to the next screen, Sarah. Okay, your conference settings. So again, this is under the service tab, the fourth tab under the end user portal. And when you click on conferencing, you have all of your conference options. So there's two different options. On the left-hand side, you've got your Meet Me conference, and on the right-hand side, you have your Smart Office Collaboration Conference. The Meet Me conference is what was really popular before the pandemic, and that's where you would call into a telephone number, and then you would put in an access code, and everyone would meet on that bridge. And it was mostly just, it was just a telephone conference bridge. So on the left-hand side there, some of the options that we have are, we have fast start. So you can fast start this, and what that means is, do you want the conference bridge to start before the moderator gets there? So normally the person whose conference you're calling into, everyone puts in a pin, and then the chairperson would put in a different pin and start the conference bridge. Well, if you want the bridge to start before the moderator actually gets there, you can do that so people can chat before they're on. If you want to, the next field is end on chair exit, and this you can be enabled or disabled. And one of the reasons why you would want to disable it is if you're a road warrior and you're traveling in the car and you're going through a dead area and you're on your cell phone, if you drop and you're the chairperson, then everyone on the call drops. If you say disable this, then everyone else will stay on the bridge and only you have to call them because you're the one that dropped. So there's a lot of benefit to this depending on what type of a user you are. Participant notifications is another area that you want to pay attention to and determine how you want that set up for your individual cell. So you can have it so that it plays tones when people join and drop the call. You can have it so that they play the name when they come in the call, or you can have it do absolutely nothing so that you don't know when people joined or left the call. So you have options there. And then the dial-in numbers are down at the bottom. They're the access numbers, and there are everything that's applicable to you as the customer is in there, and this will differ depending on who the customer is. And then the guest ID is the access code that each user puts in order to join your bridge. So that is the Meet Me conference. Now, on the right-hand side of the screen, we've got Smart Office Collaboration. And this is where, when you have the Smart Office seat, you can join the collaboration session and have video conferencing. So your dial-in numbers, if someone wants to dial in without joining through the URL, they would have their dial-in numbers here. Your access code is your guest ID, so same concept, it's listed here. And your URL, where you can click to join from a computer, is also listed here. So this is where you get all of your important information about your conferencing services. I think we can move on. Okay. Vertical service codes. Everyone has vertical service codes that are set up as a standard, but they might not all work for your specific line because partners make these unique for their customers. So the standard vertical service codes are in here that are available for them to use. Call grabber codes are in here with your specific call grabber information. But then there's also some vertical service codes, which basically are just star codes. They're shortcut keys that allow you to do things quickly. So if you want to, grab a call, you can hit star 25, and it can go between, your desktop client and your physical phone. You can call park, you can do call pickup, you can do call retrieve. So these are just standard service codes that we have set up out there.
All right, thank you, Sharon.
Back to Sarah. Thank you.
All right, so now we're going to go through another tab in the end user web portal, and this tab is specifically on routing rules. And as you get into this, that third tab is routing rules. And as in looking at it, there's kind of a section on the left-hand side and a section on the right-hand side. And let's talk about call screening first. So if you wanted to send all your calls to voicemail, why would you do that? I'm on vacation and I want to send all my calls. I've got a greeting set up for that to have just say I'm on vacation, leave me a message, I'll be back on Monday, blah, blah, blah. And so to edit that, well, to enable it, you check the box. And then if you want to edit this, the default is send a voicemail, but you could say reject. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but it is there, okay? Anonymous calls, not every call. I mean, we all get robocalls, stuff like that too, but you're able to set that all calls that don't give me their caller ID that are set up as anonymous, then I could reject those. So that's up to you. I typically don't set anything over there. Most of what I set as a user is over here. Excuse me, on call redirection, these are what we call basic. Some people even call this find me, follow me, but these are routing rules that I can say as a call comes into my business line, then I want it to simultaneously ring another number, possibly my mobile, or sequentially ring. Now, this area here, along with the advanced mode, one of the two, they're mutually exclusive. And the more detailed if then else programming kind of statements, routing rules, those are in the advanced mode. And so you can either have basic or advanced, but not both. And so let me give you an example of simultaneous. Let me go ahead and show you mine. Okay, I'm just going to make this a little bit bigger here. Routing rules. And you'll see that I don't have anything checked here. If I wanted to send all my stuff to voicemail, I could. You could choose voicemail or reject. And you can cancel that. My basic mode is disabled, but if I wanted to set it, I could set simultaneously how many number of rings. You could say no limit if you want. Let's say 4 rings. And because the rings, if you don't do anything, the rings on the service are quite long, then you can say 4 rings. And then do you want it to overflow to your business voicemail? I do. I don't want it going to my other numbers over there. And my client is my desktop client. My SIP phone is my client as well because my user ID is on that. But if I wanted it to also ring my mobile phone in the simultaneous, I could do that. Okay. And you can also, if I just have other, I could put in, any dialable routable number there. All right. If you wanted to save this, you'd hit save route, and that would be enabled. And these are all mutually exclusive. If I wanted to do sequential, though, that means I want to ring one number for a while and then go to another number and then go to another number. And as I go through this, you're going to see that there's some things that sometimes people use basically a dummy user to have some really interesting call routing for a particular user or a particular line or number. So sequential, you would say again, do you want it to go to your business voicemail or not, enabled or disabled? And you can move up and down which numbers. And again, you can say how many rings of each one. And of course, a mobile phone, it may roll to voicemail on the mobile phone. So you may want to actually take that down one. And then you would hit save. Then the presence-based routing is pretty interesting. So again, presence is based upon your device and phone presence. And on my particular, let me just drag it over here, my client, you set your presence here. So available, busy, on vacation, away, out to lunch, be right back, appear offline. And so over on this area, I could say ring 4 times, and go to my deal. But if I'm active on the phone, I don't have an assistant, but if I did have one, then maybe I want my calls going to that person if I'm on the phone. And again, you could think of lots of different ways. You could say unavailable busy because I had gone in and I set busy, okay, or offline. This is kind of like you're out of service where I don't have anything connected. I don't have a SIP phone connected. I don't have a client logged in anywhere. I am out of water. Something's happened. Then maybe I want this to go to my mobile phone. Really super easy here. And then the last one, unavailable on vacation, would be as again, if I went in here and I said on vacation. So unavailable busy is this one, unavailable vacation is this one. So again, you would hit save route. I'm going to hit this as disabled for right now because I want to show you advanced routes. So when you hit advanced mode, it's going to say, hey, you realize that this is something that is going to be mutually exclusive from basic, and this is the basic. In fact, this advanced mode is something you can turn on or off at the site level and the user level. So these are my advanced routing rules. And you can have a lot of these. And as you go into them, they filter down. And so the order that you see them in is really important. So I have them here. You can go in, you can delete them. Again, just like everything else that Sharon showed you, is that if you check something on the left-hand margin, it's going to give you some action settings on the right. So I can remove that route altogether. Some people call these routes, but I call them routes because I'm in Texas. And you can also toggle the status. So you see this normal business hours is set to inactive. I can toggle that and now it's active, meaning as calls go through it for my number, then it will take on what I've got set here. So let's look at this. As you create one, you could have hit add route and create one. And these are kind of your typical programming language. If this, then do this, otherwise this. It's called an if then else statement in programming or processing. And so I've named it whatever you want. You see it in the list, you know what it is, it's descriptive. And the first area here is an optional thing to set. And so it's saying if, this is my if statement, if any of these hold true, then do the next thing. I could have unchecked this and nothing is set. So that means all calls will go through this. But I said, when a call is received at these times, and any of these underlined links you can click on. And so now this is my business hours and my off hours. So I went in and set my business hours, and you can just drag these. Typically, I work a lot longer than this, you guys know, across multiple time zones, but let's say, and it tells me what time zone my user is set at, and the user can change that in their settings. And here I can go in and kind of click, maybe on Monday, I work a little bit longer. You just click the little things and you can kind of drag it to and hit save. So what I've got set is today, Monday through Friday, again, I think 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, that ring these numbers for 4 rings. Okay. These numbers are my office line and my business phone. Okay. And then send a voicemail. But from these groups, and this is why Sharon went through the groups, this group, my team, or our executives, any of those, they could still ring into me kind of thing after hours. And then I would hit save route. So let's look at the different things. You can say people from my personal address book. That's why we talked about address books. So the personal address book is also considered your favorites. And so you can go in and say, okay, well, these people are in my address book. Let me just set them. Okay, great. And they could be people in your company or outside your company because you may have gone in and set those. People from your corporate address book, which is also the GAB or the global address list. These groups, again, if you've created these groups, or specific numbers, maybe it is, one of your numbers, but hey, you could also add another number in here, maybe the daycare or your spouse or someone else very important, your parents or something, some other number. And again, you can add that in. you can say multiple things to do. So these are your action settings. You can say ring these numbers and for 4 rings. And so this is a sim ring idea here again. So those are the numbers. And then if you add in multiple things down here, this is sequential. Ring these for this number of rings, ring these. So you've got quite a bit that you can play with. You could also set the if busy, ring these numbers. If no answer, ring these. If unreachable, that's your out of service. Nothing I have is connected. I don't have a SIP phone connected. I don't have a client on my desktop or my mobile. And what happens if I'm completely out of service? And then I could just send it straight to voicemail. Why would I do that? You're going to see that in my other one. And then from these groups at the bottom, I can say the exceptions to that are people from my address book, my company, my groups, or from certain numbers, or if my presence is in certain state. Okay. So I think there was a question from Matt about the presence-based options. Do they work? Only if a status is set in the client, or do they, or like the offline, does the system know you're not logged in? Correct, Matt. It is definitely that. It works from both of those. Again, the present states that we have are active on the phone, whether you have a client or not, meaning we have an active call up in the network for you. Unavailable, busy, and unavailable on vacation. Specifically, the vacation is set in your client, okay? And then the unavailable offline means there's nothing connected. There's not a SIP phone. If you only have a SIP phone, you don't have a client. And by that is our either a branded client or our smart office desktop or mobile UC clients. That's where you get the offline. Now, unavailable busy, if you're on the phone, just a SIP phone, if you're on the phone, it knows that. Okay, hopefully that answered your question. And Anna, you asked about why do we have a 1 before my numbers here. We did a 164 format in our provisioning of our corporate. So we put that in there. All right, so I'm going to go back to my list. I'm not going to make any changes there. And you see I also have a vacation routing. You can have several of these. So in mine, I said if my presence is unavailable on vacation, and as I mentioned, the only way for me to have that presence is to have the client loaded, and I go in and I say on vacation. Okay, so you see my presence changed here. If this was set to enabled, then it would go straight to voicemail, except for those people who are in my 2 groups that I had selected, and that is the 2 groups I have, executives and my team. Either one of those could still punch through and talk to me, but all the others would go to that. But if you look at it right now, I'm set to inactive on that. And so um, if it didn't meet the criteria in this, then it would fall to the second criteria. Let's say I go on vacation on Friday, then most likely I would move this up in the list and I would check this and I would, well, save the reorder. And then I would go in and toggle this status to active. Okay. And let me just toggle it back before we go so I don't mess anything up there. All right. And that's it. Now, if you want to get out of the advanced stuff, you want to go back to super easy peasy stuff, you can go back to basic mode. And that means that you'll use the call redirection if you have anything set in this window. Okay. All right. So let me move that along. And let's now talk about voicemail. In the end user web portal under service settings, on the right-hand side, as you click these things, then it will change what you have here. That may be a little unintuitive for people, but the first thing that you see is voice services. So if you click settings voicemail, then you can, move around in that. I'll show you voice services here in just a second as well. But in this, you can go in and change your voicemail password or PIN. You can also set up voicemail to email. And if you enable this, then you're going to want to put an email address so that those emails can be sent that have the voicemail attachment to them. You can also change your playback options. If you'll notice in the top right under parameters, this is what number you call to check your messages. If you're not in the office and have a phone and hit the messages on your phone or on a soft client to be able to do that. So if you just want to call from your home number, let's say, or anywhere else. Then the area below here has to do with your greetings. And so we also have extended absence greetings and busy greetings. You can go in and record those on your computer. You can play those. And you can also set them up through the telephone interface. If you don't feel comfortable doing through your telephone, fine. But you can go in and download these under this standard greeting. This is the greeting that's played to everybody. And you can say system greeting, and it'll have the digitized voice announcements that we have in that. I think it's a lady. And then if you want to have personalized name, which I have now, then it would have your recording of your name, Sarah Hughes, and then it would have the standard greeting, digitized version. If you want to have personalized voice, that means it's a custom greeting that you say, um, you know, you've reached the voicemail box of Sarah Hughes with Kandy Communications, blah, blah, blah. Extended absence, if you want to turn that on or off, and you can say whether or not you want people to leave a message. So if I'm going on sabbatical, which never been on one, but let's say I'm going to be out of the office on vacation for 30 days, then I could do that. And then the busy greeting, again, you can turn that on and off as well. All right, so let's flip over to the in-user portal again, and under service settings, the default that you see here is the voice services. So this is where you change your time zone. This is where you can change the language that you see all of this. Your call grabber number is the authorized, in my case, my mobile number that's authorized to be able to move my business line one place or the other, and some other different things. Now, I do have hot desking enabled, and this is my password to be able to hot desk. That means that I could go log into any other phone that is set for hot desking, and I could put my user ID and password in. Some other feature settings here. What's also very important here is presence. Presence settings are, do I want to show if I'm on the phone, which I think is very important for people to see. It's just like when you set up meetings, you want to click on that second tab in Microsoft so that you can go in and see whether or not they're already having a meeting at that time. So seeing that somebody is on the phone is pretty important. And that is in your clients for that. And then you can also report when you're inactive. If you haven't used, and again, these are particularly for clients to be able to see when you've walked away from your desk for this many number of seconds or whatever, and you can put that in. On the right-hand side is my specific telephone number and numbers that we have set up for you. I have different numbers than you do, but you'll notice most everybody has the star 25 for that. And then now let me click on voicemail on the right-hand side. And again, this is my password. You see that it is um, ISO 27001 compliant here so that we're not showing what that is, but I could go in and change that. I have it set up to voicemail to email and to this address. I could change my playback options. I see the number that I dial in if I'm calling in, let's say from my cell phone, don't have a client to check my messages. I'm playing personalized name, but I could play personalized voice. I could download my greeting, I could play my greeting, I could also go here and change the playback speed, and I can upload from my computer. Extended absence is disabled, and my busy greeting, I could enable that too. Okay, when you make changes like that, you do want to hit Save Settings. And there is one other thing here that we have the ability to pass through into our messaging portal. Now, some of you may have deployed the voicemail portal as a separate portal for customers, but we have now tightly integrated that. So it is passed through into here. And one of the questions that came up before is, can we go in through the end user web portal and go in and delete messages, voicemail messages? You absolutely can, and this is how you do that. So here within the messaging portal pass through, I can click my messages. I do have voicemail transcription enabled, so you can see this message, and I can go in for each one. You can see what is not listened to yet, and you can also see, I could forward this to someone, I could download it, I can add this number as a contact in here, but I'm gonna just delete this message. I could also play it if I wanted to. And so that's how you delete messages through the end user portal. Also in here, and of course, that is in trash, so I could go back and get it if I needed to undelete it. Stays for a while. Contacts, unless you're going in and setting some specific things, I don't recommend you do a lot there. But under options, and why would you get into the message portal? One is delete voicemail, but two is maybe you want to change your zero out option for your greeting. So you could do that. These are some other things that you can do for your voicemail settings. I do have fax enabled. My greetings are here, so I can play them, set some other things. My notifications are here. I already have that set as emailing me. I could have a text message me. I could also set times that I want that to be done. Um, and then this attendant is my zero out option. So this is what, if you press zero in my greeting and I say, if you need me urgently, you can press zero at any time. That's what I would put in my greeting. And I say, when I want that to allow that to happen. Distribution list, other types of things there. And under my account, this is my phone number, my email, time zone, that kind of stuff. All right, so that just opened up a different tab in the same thing. So that's the messaging portal. All right, let me just reduce
We
that.
have a couple questions, Sarah. Do you want to answer them now or do you want to wait a few minutes?
Let's see. Yes, let's go ahead and answer them now. Um, is there a free tool for users to record their greetings with? I use Goldwave. I like that a lot. It is free. I'm sure there's several others out there, but Goldwave allows you to kind of save the different formats. And then the other one, does the fax option only apply if when calls get to voicemail? In other words, they ring the phone first. Okay. Um, you can have fax enabled. Most of the time, fax is a different number, but I can talk to you, Holly, about that separately. Excuse me, but my
We had a
particular one,
different question too.
yeah,
Okay.
yep. Okay, and then, okay, so we did a demonstration of this. In this main dashboard, it does tell you how many new messages you have, but also how many you can have in your mailbox. So my particular license has 100 messages in there. We do have SKUs that have mailboxes that go to a higher number of messages, but we also have some that also can be set to have just announcement only mailbox. Okay. All right. And this is where my email notifications are set to. All right, let's talk about device keys. Device keys are pretty cool if they're set up in the end user web portal. The way you do that is when you go into a site, well, first of all, as you build the customer and you provision that customer, you would want to enable device key management. Okay. And then under fulfillment sites, at the site level, you do have to check the box whether or not, or say enabled, whether or not you want to allow those subscribers there to be able to have a picture of their phone and be able to manage their buttons in their end user portal. You could do that on a user by user basis. And so when I go in then, and again, this is within sites, allowing users to configure device keys. You could say enabled. And you also see the other one, the advanced mode and routing in the end user portal that is set to enable in my as well. If you disable it, it won't show in the end user portal. Then as you're assigning devices to subscribers, these devices obviously wouldn't show up on an end user portal if they didn't have a phone assigned to them. If they're only soft phone users altogether, they won't see this. But within the subscriber provisioning, you check the box to associate a phone to them. And then underneath this, you actually have to save that and then come back in here and you'll see allow the user to change keys in the end user portal. You may have missed that. So go back in and take a look at that. Excuse me. And when you do, this is what the end user sees. So for me, the subscriber here is that's my user ID. And I have actually two phones set up. One is a Polycom and one is a Yay Link. We support this on both of those. And in the future, we're going to have it for the Cisco phones as well. And then um, depending on the phone type, whether it is a Poly or Yay-Link, for mine, this particular phone has both soft keys on it and buttons. So the phone keys are the buttons that you see here. If I had chosen soft keys, then it would allow me to change these. I'm going to show you that. And then you can click on any underlined link. What that will do is open up a little box here for you to click this, and then these are the things that you can set for those particular buttons. And when you do, you would hit save, and then the check sync is something that you'd want to do to basically restart that phone. Now, some of these things that you set may not require a restart of the phone, but you're basically pushing the configuration file down to that device, and then it will take on that configuration. Okay, so I'm going to show you this as well. So let me get to my, yep, on device keys. So I have two. First of all, it doesn't always show the image, right? If you want to see the image, you can click that and see it. It's a toggle here. So you see that I have two phones. I have a Yay-Link as well. And there's certain things for this Yay-Link that would show up and wouldn't, okay? For the others, because this one has both phone keys and soft keys, you can see that. I'm going to go back to the Polycom. I've got it sitting right here in front of me, and it is there. So you can see that button one has to do with this, and the others are listed. Now you can move things around if you want. I've got some busy lamp fields set, and those were set by the administration. So I can click on it, but you can see I can't make any changes to those. But I can make changes to speed dials, and I can change them. I can go in anything that is existing pre-assigned, means if you had something on there, I'm not going to mess it up. But you can see I can put call park, retrieve. We're making some changes to these over time. So you're going to see some of these grouped together. We're going to put single button call park, retrieve together. We're going to add some additional functionality in here for you. But you can see different things that I have set up. A parking lot, call park with notification, call return, different things that you can change on these. You can change the name of them. The label is what's going to actually show on the phone. And then custom, I can choose a certain subscriber from the list if I want to speed dial somebody, and then what number it's on there. All right, so if I then wanted to, let me just cancel this. If I wanted to edit my soft buttons, so soft keys change based upon the state of the phone. If I'm dialing, if I am, well, here it is. Inbound ringing calls, here they are. Outbound ringing, dialing, if I've gotten dial tone, if I've got a held call, I'm idle, or I'm active on the call. Okay, so you can change any of these, and I've left them as they are default. But if there is one while you're dialing that you want to change, then you can do that. While you're active on a call, you can change what's there too. All right, then we also have, so this is the 411 soft keys. If I go back here, you're going to see something else that we added for the Polycom phone is pagination enabled. All right, I'm going to enable that, and you're going to see that, ooh, there's a lot more. There's a functionality that Poly added in a release of their software to allow even more things to kind of cycle through, because they have a button called more, and you can just hit that and it'll go, you know, lots and lots and lots. So you could set that up or not. It's up to you. And if you disable it, then it takes it back to the original. You'll notice also that I can go in and I can add an expansion module. There are two, the paper one or the color one. And if I add that, great, then that's in here. And you'll see now that I can go and change the different buttons on that as well. Okay, so totally up to you. All right, so I'm going to return to list here and go back, and let's look at what we've got set next. All right, so a couple of things. When you create a hunt group, sorry, yep. All right, let's talk about hunt groups, and we'll talk about, and thanks everybody for staying just a little bit longer with us here. When you create a hunt group, then you do want to have an administrator for that hunt group. And this is in admin. You can set up a hunt group, all different kinds, and you do want to set an administrator. Save that group. There's also a SKU that you'd want to assign to that business for the wallboard, okay? And when you do set that up, when you set somebody up as an administrator, the account is what most people go into, and that's what we've all been into and I've demonstrated so far. But when you set somebody up as either a hunt group administrator or a UCD group administrator, then you see a configuration tab. You'll see the list of those hunt groups or UCD groups. You click on it, and then now you're able to go in within the end user web portal and make modifications to things that aren't grayed out. And so here you can see the number, the alias, the wait time, what happens, and I can hit launch the wallboard. So here's an example of my hunt group wallboard. I have 3 calls. You can go in and set filters. You click on the icon for each one of these, and you can set a threshold color as the administrator. So it's a very powerful tool to use this for hunt groups and for UCD groups. So within the UCD group, when you create that in our admin, you can set up someone to be an administrator, save that group, and you could launch the wallboard from here. UCD groups, in order to provision them, there is a SKU, and you have each one as a cost, and then the wallboard is one cost, just like the wallboard for for hunt groups for the entire business. And then again, as an administrator in configure, you hit that. You can open and close the queue. If you're also an agent, you can log yourself in and out. And so the agents will have this in there. You can show agent status, which would be a toggle. You wouldn't see the admin. You'd see whether or not they're logged in. You can open the queue, you can launch the wallboard. There's lots of different things here that you can set. Anything that is not grayed out as a UCD group administrator, you can do. And again, you've got your own wallboard. Each one is unique in that. Okay, so just a couple of things here and we'll be done, not much more. We do have a way for you within the administration to drill down and get into a subscriber's user portal. Now, why would you do this? Because they're an executive, they need help setting something up, doing it for them rather than them logging in and doing it, kind of that white glove service, concierge. And you can go in and set the routing for them, maybe set some advanced routing rules or something if needed. But you can also drill down into their message portal and you can make some settings there, change their zero out option and that kind of stuff to maybe go to their executive assistant, let's say. All right, now let's talk about a few things that are available to you. If you have not already done this, you do want to register for our partner portal, and you do that on our website. Go to Ecosystem and go to the Kandy Partner Portal. That is where you can get access to all of our documentation, our training, brandable content like quick reference guides, user guides, presentations, video tutorials, all of that. And don't forget, we have set up a page that has all of the end user training that is generic. You can reference this in your quick reference, you know, welcome letters, new subscriber checklists, and that kind of stuff. I've made these to have kind of hot links to them. So when you get this presentation, then you will get those as well. And then finally, without further ado here, there are a few events that are coming up I do want to share with you, and you can go to our kandy.io/events page and register for these. Next Tuesday, September 21st, Kevin Howell Patterson will be providing an update to all of our partners on what is in Release 50. And then that was deployed in August. That's what we're on right now, 50.3. So he'll go through what's in that. You may not have realized some things were added, so it's a great webinar to attend, as well as he'll give you a peek into what's coming next. We also have our monthly Fireside technical chats on call park, pickup, and paging. That's something that we've done previously, but we're going to fine tune on this. And I know several of you may have questions and want to understand it more. So we'll be going through that in October. In November, we're going to talk about CRM integration with Kandy. And then December the 9th, Kevin's going to come back and talk to us about what's in 51. release 51. And then in December, we're going to close out the year talking about best practices in deploying ancillary devices. And that is like our, with ATAs, analog terminal adapters, paging, those types of things. And finally, we really want to hear from you on some topics about things that, sorry, getting a little echo there, Sharon, about some things that you might want to see next. So please make sure that you email us at customersuccess@kandy.io. So that is, we want some new topics from you. I do believe there are a couple of questions that have come in. And is there a way to, besides using advanced routing, to change the number of rings before a call goes to voicemail? Holly, there are some changes that can be made for your particular profile. So those can be done kind of on a domain-wide scale, or you would have to go in and make those changes in advanced routing. Another question came in on end users. Why can't they create busy lamp fields? Matt, I'm not sure what the rationale there is, but if it is something that you feel strongly about allowing them, then do open up a case and mark it in the subject feature development request, FDR, and we'll get that sent over to product management to make a change there. All right, anything else, Sharon?
Nope, that was it. I just wanted to make sure you saw those couple questions.
Yeah. Great. Well, we appreciate everybody for being on and staying with us a little bit longer today. We're going to send this information out probably tomorrow to everybody. So if you found this useful, then please make sure that you share this with other people, and the recording will be up on the website and in our partner portal. Again, if you have any questions or need some assistance, you can email us at customersuccess@kandy.io. If you do have issues, please open cases, and our support team would be happy to help you on that. All right, thank you so much.